What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another video here. I am Roxora, and today we are doing another Commander deck tech, and we are going to be reviewing a submission from friend of the channel, Battle Brother B, and they have submitted a deck list that I'm going to take a look at and analyze the cards they've decided to include, as well as, is this a deck that you can play in a variety of different play groups? How competitive is it? How casual is it? Are there infinite combos? Does it interact well? And at the end, I'll give it a rating out of 10. Yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our commander for this video is Wilhelt the Rotcleaver. So it is 2 blue-black for a legendary creature zombie warrior. It is a 3/3, and whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, you create a 2/2 black zombie token with Decayed. So if you don't know what Decayed does, essentially it says it can't block, and if it attacks, it gets sacrificed at the end step. If it even survives, that is. And this has been from the Innistrad commander decks. This was the one of them, and it was the zombie one, and the Decayed mechanic was there. And then it also says at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie if you do draw cards. The card kind of fuels itself, where you just play this. You have any other zombie, you sack the zombie, you draw a card, and you make a Decayed token. And you kind of go from there and just continue to sack things, draw cards, and get lots of value. So let's take a look at the deck. So this is a somewhat tribal deck. There is also a combo in here that I'll talk about. Before we get into that, I just want to make some notes here. So the deck is meant to be a budget deck, I am informed. The deck currently says, if you look down here, it says 750. I believe that is warped because I noticed I was taking a look and there is this $22 island in here randomly. So I think that is skewing the price. I think it is somewhere in the $500 range. So pretty decent for a well put together deck that is playing good cards, but not one that is necessarily a super spike with all the fetch lands, Force of Will, the dual lands, and Mana Crypt or whatever, and things like that. So I would say, yeah, this is definitely in the realm of trying to be competitive, but also making some concessions from budget, which I will note when that happens. So we have our commander here as usual, and then we have 26 zombies. Again, you need lots of zombies to make this card work. So we've got Carrion Feeder, common staple in this kind of sacrifice-based deck. It is also a zombie, which is really nice. Can't block, but you can sack stuff to put +1/+1 counters on it. Crypt Breaker, all-star from back in the day. Say back in the day, this was like a few years ago, I want to say. But if you ever get 3 zombies, it can just start drawing lots of cards, and it helps you make zombies and using those extra cards. So very good with Wilhelt, definitely. And then we have some 1-drops here that don't look the best, but they are nice when you can rebuy them, again, for Wilhelt or for sacrifice. So we have Dread Wanderer, which can return from the graveyard to the battlefield, and then Gravecrawler, which one can be cast from the graveyard if you have a zombie. In our 2-drop slots, we have 3 effects that just give us value or give us benefit for things dying. We've got Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat as the classic aristocrat style cards, and then we have Undead Augur, which is specific to zombies, being really good at, again, giving you extra cards. We have a bunch of things in the 3-drop slot here, which is relevant again because there are various transmute cards, which I'll go over. So we've got Ace Rack, the Arc Lich, excuse me. This is one of the combo pieces that I'll talk about more, but for here it is a 2 black 5/5 zombie wizard. And when it enters, if you haven't completed the Tomb of Annihilation, you return it to your hand and venture into the dungeon. And then if it ever stays on the battlefield and attacks, you create a 2/2 unless they sacrifice a creature. So dungeon mechanic, if you're not familiar with it, there was 3 dungeons and you get to choose one. And we'll kind of go over how that kind of enables the infinite combo in this deck. We've also got the Cemetery Reaper, which is a lord. We've got some other lords here. We got Death Baron, Diagraph Captain. And then we have our first transmute card in Drift of Phantasm. I remember this card very well. I think I had this in a deck at some point. So if you don't know what transmute is, it is 1 blue. In this case, it's just you pay a cost. The cost is 1 blue. You discard the card. You search a library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, shelf your library, but only as a sorcery. But this is not casting a spell. This is an activated ability on the card. So this is an uncounterable demonic tutor, but for only things that cost 3 mana. What else does the card do? Doesn't matter because you're never casting the card. Yeah, you should really never cast that card. If you're ever casting that card, you did something wrong. But this is essentially just going to allow us to tutor for any of our lords, some of our other 3-drops here, or Acerak as our combo piece. So interesting inclusion of the transmute cards as kind of a budget card. This is really cheap. It's $2. So definitely much better than getting Demonic Tutor. We've also got Fleshback Marauder, classic Lord of the Accursed, some more lords, as we said, Lord of the Undead, Plague Belcher as another aristocrat style card, just having each opponent lose 1 life. We've got Papa Stitcher, which can work really well with the decayed tokens because the other side here, I'll try and show it here. It's going to be hard. There we go. Makes it so that the tokens don't have decayed anymore, and then they become 3/3s. So that is another interesting interaction with Wilhelt. I wonder how that works if they still have decayed. If it didn't have decayed, yeah, I'm not sure how that might be another kind of infinite, where if you can flip Poppet Stitcher and you can just like win the game with just some kind of sack outlet because you just get infinite. I didn't think about that originally, but that might still be another infinite. Interesting. We've got Stronghold Assassin to destroy some non-black creatures, more lords. Cleave Scob is an interesting new addition. I don't say new; it came with the set. 3 and tap, sacrifice another zombie, create 2 tokens that are copies of the sacrifice creature, so can really go off if it's not interacted with. And for anything like I guess you can't do Zulaport Conclave, you can't do Blood Artist, but that would be kind of cool if you could turn them into zombies. But things like Death Baron or Diagraph Captain, if you ever copy something like that, then Diagraph Captain just gets even more exponential, which is kind of cool. We've got Undead War Chief, which makes zombies cost 1 less and also increases their power and toughness. Vengeful Dead, another good effect. And then we've got 1 Bantu, which is really good for sacking a lot of things at once and you get lots of cards. So this could, just kill opponents out of nowhere if you have lots of benefits for sacking stuff. We have Hordewing Scob, which gives zombies flying. It's combat effect I don't think as useful. It's just kind of like a loot, which I don't think is really that good. I think the main reason why this is in the deck is for the flying effect, and I'm not really sold. Like, I think this card is like fine for a budget card. It just seems kind of clunky. I'm not sold on this. I mean, I'm sure there might be some games when they play it and it die, but I would rather just play have more cards in the deck that are these lord type effects that aren't this expensive, but I could be wrong. Noxious Ghoul is a good board wrath. You just play a bunch of zombies and everything dies. Sidisi is a great card here. It is a zombie. It has death touch, but it also sacrifices thing and then turns that sacrifice into a demonic tutor, which is really powerful. This is probably seen in a lot of creature-based black decks, just because having a 4/6 death touch and then being able to just sack something and tutor is pretty nice. So then we get into the spells here. We've got Profane Tutor, which I believe is a budget replacement again for some kind of tutor effect. Having Suspend 2 is like, not the best, but you know, I don't think this deck is trying to win super fast, so I feel like it's okay. Again, like I'm trying to, you know, say, all right, this is a budget card. You know, it's taking the place of Demonic Tutor. It is worse, is noticeably worse than Demonic Tutor, as opposed to something like Diabolic Tutor, which is double the mana, but on the turn that you cast it, does the same thing as Demonic Tutor. So, you know, um, I'll kind of ignore it. And then we have Bone Shards and Bone Splitters, which, you know, do a similar effect. They're just good, cheap removal, especially when you have a lot of these decayed tokens running around. I'm not really sure what this Gitaxian Probe is doing here. Like, there's not a lot of spell synergies. Paying 2 life to draw a card, or even just like paying 1 blue to draw a card. You could be checking for counters, but I think this card should just not be here. I think this card just shouldn't be here. It doesn't. It's just, this one is kind of an outlier to me. It could also, maybe it could be a theme where, because it's, you know, kind of spooky. You know, it's got a spooky artwork here. Oh, I'm trying to show the artwork, but it's fine. Reanimate is a good one. Reanimate, I definitely think is worth it when you have, again, all of these zombies. Feed the Swarm as enchantment removal is pretty good. And then we've got another transmute card here, Demir Machinations. This one I don't think is particularly good as a spell either. Look at the top 3 cards of target player's library, remove any of those cards from the game, then put the rest back in any order. It's like, maybe if they put something on top, you can disrupt them, but generally, yeah, this is going to be another one of just don't cast it, just transmute it, and it can get you Acerric or any of your other spells, or Poppet Stitcher, or any of your other 3-drops here. And then we've got Windfall just as a good card draw spell. I think this is reasonable. Again, this is one that's a little bit odd, but I think it's fine. And then I've already talked about Demonic Tutor. In the instant slot, we've got a lot of interaction here. We've got Swan Song, Arcane Denial, Counterspell, Countersquall, Cyclonic Rift, which is an obvious include, Delay, Drown in the Lock, Essence Scatter, Go for the Throat. Jawari Disruption is kind of a weird one. I mean, if you're counting it as a land and just like using it as that, fine, but I don't think the spell side is particularly relevant. I would probably take this out. Negate, good one. Blue Sun Zenith is another one that is odd. I recognize Blue Sun Zenith is a good card. I just don't know if this is how blue wants to, like, this particular deck wants to get its card draw. It's like you're not generating lots of mana. I guess like it does shuffle into your deck. I don't know. I'm just thinking of, like, anytime I see this, I just think of Kindred Discovery, which I know is $20 or $30, and I relate, man. I am sympathetic to the price and trying to cut costs, but yeah. I mean, if that's the concession that's being made, if like this is taking the place of Kindred Discovery, and like that's like a known thing, totally fine. And if that's a card that you're running in the meantime, yeah, it's fine. So that's all good. And this next card is another transmute card, but one that I actually think is well worth including. This is probably the first transmute card I would include in blue-black decks. So this is Perplex. This is 1 blue-black for an instant counter target spell unless its controller discards his or her hand and then transmute. For the same cost. So this is one of the only cards that I'm like, okay, I might actually cast this card. Like, if I'm not transmuting it on the turn that I get it, I'm happy to have it in my hand and counter something. And then, like, if my opponent says, all right, well, I'll just discard my hand, like that's a powerful effect, actually. Definitely like that as another form of interaction. We got Poison the Cup here. You know, I'm not sure. Is Murderous Rider a zombie? Pretty sure Murderous Rider is a zombie. Hold up, one sec. Murderous Rider. Murderous Rider is a zombie, and it is not expensive, so I'm kind of confused why Poison the Cup is in here and not Murderous Rider. And Murderous Rider is a 3 cost that you can search for. You could also, like, put it on the bottom of your deck and, like, shuffle and redraw it. Like, I'm confused why it's this and not that. Factor Fiction is a fine card. It's a draw spell. Not going to say anything about that. Snuff Out is a good removal spell. That's pretty standard. And then in the artifact and enchantment slot, we've got a lot of pretty classic thing. I don't think there's anything particularly stand out here. Skull Clamp, obvious, include in these token, sacrifice decks. Soul Ring, auto include. Altar of Dementia is a win condition and a sacrifice outlet. Again, it works with Wilhelt to make lots of tokens, and then you can either mill yourself, or you can start milling lots and lots of people for their entire decks. So, we've got Demir's Signet, which is an obvious one. We've also got the Talisman for additional ramp. We've got 2 of the boots or / greaves here, which typically I see decks run just 1. I really only see this if you really, really, really need to protect your commander, which I don't think is the case. Like, I think this deck is good, and it definitely gets better when its commander is doing its thing. But I also think this deck can win just by playing good zombies and, drawing lots of cards and then getting lots of value. So, yeah, I mean, if there's nothing else that you would really want to put here, like, fine, but I don't think you need both of these. But I'm not saying the deck is worse for having both. I just don't think it's really needed. There is Ashnod's Altar here as another sacrifice outlet. I'm like trying to pull myself back because I think this should be Phyrexian Altar, because I was in noticing this, I was like, hey, Gravecrawler plus Phyrexian Altar, plus any zombie. Like if you have, Undead Augur, or if you have, Zulaport Cutthroat plus another zombie, like that's just a win right there, where it's just you play the Gravecrawler, sack it, add a black, cast the Gravecrawler, sack it, add a black, and you keep going, and then Zulaport Cutthroat would kill your opponents there. So, and you can't do that with Ashnod's Altar. So, and then I was like, well, why isn't this Phyrexian Altar? And then I looked at the price tag. And so again, definitely sympathetic. I just wish that this could be a Phyrexian Altar. Blasting Station's another good one. This is another one where like it can work with a couple of things, again, like with Wilhelt. Maybe this is like the combo with the Poppet Stitcher, because since it's whenever a creature comes into play. Yeah, so like this is a cool combo where you have Wilhelt, you have Poppet Stitcher on the transform side. So you make it so that the decayed tokens don't have decayed anymore, and then you use Blasting Station to sack them. Wilhelt triggers, you get a token. The token would have decayed, but Poppet Factory is making them not have decayed. And so then you keep going, I think, is how that should work. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. But don't quote me on it. Commander Sphere is one that I really like to see in budget decks. 3 mana rocks aren't the best, and you shouldn't have a ton of them in your decks. But this one is a pretty decent one where you play it and it can make mana. It can ramp you or fix you, and then later on it can just be another card for free. It's just no nothing to sacrifice and draw a card. You just do it. I have this, I think, in my Alesha deck, so again, it's pretty good for this kind of range of like, you are trying to run good cards but also not trying to break the bank. I think this is a good example of a card that can do that decently well. Again, it's not the most powerful thing in the world, but it's pretty good. Eldrazi Monument is a good one. Being another Lord effect, being a sacrifice at your upkeep, again, for Wilhelt and your other sacrifice themes. So that's a pretty standard one, I think. Nothing too crazy there. Animate Dead, pretty standard. Bastion of Remembrance is like becoming like the new version of Blood Artist, where it's just good. And in a lot of black decks, again, especially with Blood Artist and Zulaport. Endless Ranks of the Dead is a spicy one. Just making lots of zombies. And also this works well, again, with Wilhelt, where, you start making, your decay tokens, and then it just goes off from there. And then we've got Rooftop Storm, which is the other part of the Acerak combo. So if you're not familiar with this, Rooftop says you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for zombie spells you cast. So just Omniscience for just zombie spells. So sorry, zombie creature spells. I don't know if there's any zombie tribal spells, but just in case. Um, so yeah, the way this works is, Acerak has a there is the tomb, or the Pandelver. One of the dungeons has an effect to deal one damage, or to have your opponent lose one life and you gain one life as one of um the rooms, as they say. I think that's what they call it. And so with Rooftop Storm, you can cast Acerak for free. Continue to choose not, I repeat, not the Tomb of Annihilation as your dungeon. So it's the second one. It's like the mine of the lost mine of the Pandelver. Thank you. There we go. Thank you, myself. Lost mine of the Pandelver. You just continue to choose that over and over and over, going through the rooms, draining, and so that will lead to infinite damage and a win. Yeah. Before we talk about the rest of the deck here, let's briefly go over the lands here. So we've got a budget version of Cabal Coppers and Cabal Stronghold. I say really budget because, I don't even think it's that effective because it's still $6, which is not nothing. Like, it's not expensive, but it's not nothing. And it's in this deck, it's not really accomplishing a lot. It's basic swamps. And so, like, having 12 swamps, think about if you add 12, if you draw half of the swamps in your deck, which I don't think this deck even really wants to do, it's only adding 2 mana. Because you have to tap, you have to pay 3 mana and you have to tap it. So like, yeah, like maybe if you're getting tons of swamp, if you're getting like 10 swamps, maybe, but yeah, I'm not impressed. Like, I totally get wanting to include something like this, but this should just be Cabal Coffers. Yeah, the basic text there, super unfortunate. We've got Castle Lockwain and Castle Vantress as value cards, Command Tower, of course, and then we've got some dual lands, Fabled Passage, Fetid Pools. Most of these are okay. I think Fabled Passage is a good one. Fetid Pools being the singular tapped land in this deck is good. Just like to see that. Phyrexian Tower is a good one for the sacrifice decks. It's a sacrifice outlet by itself. And then we've got Urborg as just, making sure that you have all your colors. And then in addition to the Polluted Delta and the Watery Grave. So really the mana cost in this deck isn't too serious. There's really just some double black cards and one triple blue card. But otherwise it's pretty evenly spread out. So the mana base isn't too complicated there. And especially again with the Dimir Signet and the Talisman, there's definitely enough to make it, have everything be nice and easy. So let's talk about the game plan. So game plan is, again, we are a mid-range deck, for the most part, again, just trying to, play your creatures, get lots of tribal synergies, and then play out Wilhelt, and then use that to gain a ton of value, sacrificing your grave crawlers, sacrificing your tokens, and sacrificing Fleshback Marauder and getting it back. All these sorts of things, casting lots of instants and sorceries to make Papa Stitcher work. Oh, I guess Gitaxian Probe could be a thing for Papa Stitcher, but I still don't think that's worth it. But yeah, and then using your spells here to interact with the board. Meanwhile, like while you are attacking them down or creating your board, using your bone shards, using your counter spells to protect your board, or make sure yours is the biggest. And then you can just gain lots of value, drawing lots of cards with Skull Clamp, drawing lots of cards with Wilhelt or with the Undead Augur, and then hopefully finding your Acerak, the Arclich, and Rooftop Storm. Again, you can tutor for this with all of your Transmute cards or with your tutors. Same thing for, you can use your Demonic Tutor to grab the Rooftop Storm. So, and then you also have, I believe, the combo. Again, I have to check up on the ruling. I'm pretty sure I have that correctly, where the other side of Poppet Stitcher will make it so that Wilhelt's tokens, come on, you, no longer have Decayed, and so, any sacrifice outlet plus the other side of Poppet Stitcher and Wilhelt is just a win as well. Sorry, excuse me, plus some sort of blood artist effect. That might be another reason for Bloon Suns, where if you are able to do this with Ashnod's Altar, I'm realizing that if you have 3 blue up, you can just, continuously do that with Ashnod's Altar, Wilhelt, and Poppet Stitcher's side, so that you generate infinite colorless, and then you can just like deck somebody. So that would be kind of interesting. Maybe you have enough blue, you could kill everybody just by casting it, shuffling it into your deck, drawing it again, and then casting it. So that could be kind of cool stuff with Blue Suns. Maybe that's a fine reason to run it over Kindred Discovery. So if that's the explanation, again, I've talked a little bit with Battle Brother B about some of the card choices. There was like a not a great zombie in here at one point. Most of the zombies I feel like are good. Here's the thing is I like all the zombies. The creatures are great. The places that I would make improvements are the spells. And the lands. I forgot to mention no Bajuka Bog. Why is there no Bajuka Bog? Bajuka Bog in every single black deck. 100%. Otherwise I don't care. So yeah. Yeah, let's kind of talk about, so this deck is, again, another one that is good to play in a lot of different play groups. It is doing fair things. It has some counter spells and it's got a combo in it, but it really is just trying to play a fair game, draw cards, and attack and do things from there. So definitely like that. And in the scenarios where you're playing a lower power level group, maybe you just use Rooftop Storm as a mini Omniscience, just, dump your hand of zombies. And if you're playing in a higher power level group, maybe you go for the combo kill a little bit faster. So I always like seeing that. Again, nobody wants to, have to build a completely new deck every single time they go to a new play group. As for, can this deck contend with, some of the higher power level decks? Probably not, but I think it's pretty clear that's not what this deck is trying to do. It's trying to just, be a fun deck. Yeah, definitely like seeing the amount of interaction decks. Again, we typically see lots of casual decks here not have a lot of counter spells and removal. That's not the case here because Battle Brother B is a experienced deck builder, 100%. Yeah. So I would say there's a couple of things missing, some odd choices. Again, Gitaxian Probe is kind of odd. Jawari Disruption is odd. I wish Asnod Altar could be Phyrexian Altar, and this should be Cabal Coffers. So there's just some small things like that that are just kind of unfortunate, either because of budget or just maybe some things were missed in the deck building process. But yeah, definitely think Bajuka Bog and the things that I mentioned should be in here. But I definitely understand if you don't want to add something like Kindred Discovery or Phyrexian Altar. Totally understand. So what would I give this deck out of 10? I would probably give it a 7. I think it's a well-built deck, but again, it has it seems somewhat slow to get going, and the tutors and the card draw doesn't appear like it's as consistent, again because it's so slow to get off the ground. But it is still a well-built deck and can definitely win some games out of nowhere, which is always good to see. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10, maybe a 7.5. I definitely think it's good. Definitely above average for the decks that I see. So yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this Commander deck tech. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I'll leave a link down below so that you can take a look at the list if you'd like. If you enjoyed the video, remember you can leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to submit a deck list, you can do so in the comments, or if you really want me to review your deck list, join the Discord, link below, and there is a channel just for deck list submissions. You can also find me at twitch.tv/Roxora098. I do a variety of content over there, in addition to just normal Magic stuff. But yeah, check me out there, and I'll see you guys for the next video.